Hello, I'm Deborah Vinsel, and you're watching Mission Nonprofit. Each month, we connect with local organizations and agencies that are making a positive impact in our communities. Today, we've invited Sandra Herndon, Carol Goss, and Gail Reedy from the League of Women Voters of Thurston County to talk about their work. So thank you all for joining us. We have benefited for many, many years from a really productive partnership with the League of Women Voters, but it dawned on us that perhaps the viewers who have seen many of the things that we've done together might want to know more about what you all do. So Sandra, I'm going to start with you. Tell us a little bit about the history of the League and how it ended up coming to Thurston County.
Well, I'm really glad that you included us. The League started 100 years ago. It's probably hard for some of us to imagine that 100 years ago women could not vote, not to mention a lot of other things that women couldn't do, and not just white women, but women of color and including other racial groups. So 100 years ago, there was a big effort for women's suffrage, meaning the right to vote, and the League started at that time with a push to get women's right to vote. And so as a result, you'll see how that carries forward into our work today. Subsequently, the League came to include men and younger people, and Carol will talk about that as we go along as well. The League is a three-tiered organization. We are a national organization, states have an organization, and local leagues. We're a local league in Thurston County. That sounds like it's a supranational organization, but no, it's a bottom-up organization. And the local leagues are what make things happen. The purpose of the League, and I need to read this so I can be exactly precise, is to promote political responsibility through informed and active participation of citizens in government, and to act on selected government issues. And so that will get elaborated as we talk about this. But one of the key features of the League is that we are a nonpartisan organization, and yet we're also political. In case you think that's a contradiction, let me explain how it works. We are, as an organization, we are nonpartisan. We don't support or oppose candidates or parties. We do study issues and we take positions and advocate on issues, but we are nonpartisan in the political arena. And so that has given us a lot of credibility because we're not for or against any candidate or any party. In fact, the League, some of you may be old enough to remember that the National League of Women Voters sponsored the presidential debates, which were originally much more like debates, back in the 80s until they just pulled out because of the rules that the political parties were making, and it took away from the credibility of the League. So that's a very important feature for the League of Women Voters, is our nonpartisanship stance and our credibility. When we study issues, we do it thoroughly from a nonpartisan perspective, and then we come to conclusion, we come to consensus. This is a consensus-based organization. If we don't have consensus, we don't have a position, and then we advocate on those grounds.
But consensus doesn't necessarily mean that 100% of your members agree with the position.
No. Most people who've worked in organizations know it means that it's generally the agreement of everybody in the group, and nobody is violently opposed.
Okay. So I'm going to come to you, Gail, and please let's have a conversation. But Sandra mentioned that the League is available to men and women, yes, and that you're nonpartisan. And I know your role as Voter Services Chair is to help voters know more about what's going on in our community relative to political issues. So tell me a little bit about what the Voter Services Committee for the League and what the League is doing to support that.
Well, there's actually 4 main components of voter services, and in my limited experience, I'm pretty new to the active part of the League. It's about half of what we do as the work. Voter services is a predominant part of the work we do. So it comprises of registering people to vote. And in this state, now with the automatic voter registration, when you get your driver's license, that is not as primary a role, but it is still a major role that we do. Then we are also getting out the vote, informing people how to do that. And I'm proud to say that one of the members of this league with a couple of other people helped produce a video that is now being adopted by the State League and funded by the State League, and it's how to vote. And it's focused primarily for younger voters on how it's pretty simple to vote. And so that's a major part now, is getting the information out. And the third one is educating voters on the issues. And we do that through forums and that you've helped produce. So we do both televised forums, and in this league we do live forums as well. So it depends on which candidates are being run at which year. And then next year with 2020, we'll be in the supporting role with both the state and the National League in terms of getting information out about different races. And then finally, voter education in general, and Carol will talk about this more in terms of specific issues. And I think those are the primary things that we do. And we're beginning to focus more because in this county, a lot of people are registered, but not so many people vote. So the common sort of rule of thumb is in a non-national election year, like this year, about 35 to 40% of the voters vote, even though local races can be as important, if not more so. And then in national years, depending on what is up, it's somewhere between 65 to 75%. And so part of what we're beginning to really think about and talk about in our local league, but also statewide, is how we increase those numbers. And the state league has something called 411, which is information about each local area and what the races are and who's running and what their platform is. And so that's in addition to what the Secretary of State puts out in terms of the voter pamphlets. So people can go to the League of Women Voters WA and go to the link for 411 and get information about their local races. And that relies on local candidates to put their information forward.
Vote411.org.
Vote411.org for that for information. So I hear, we have had just through our interactions with the league over the years the opportunity to talk a lot about voter involvement and turnout. And it does sometimes make you question when the ballot comes to your door and all you have to do is fill it out and stick it in a mailbox. It doesn't get much easier than that. But you mentioned a little bit ago that you had worked with, that the league had worked to create a video geared toward young voters. Right. So are you seeing, is it getting harder to get young voters involved?
Well, I think it varies throughout the years. I don't know that it's any harder or less hard. But, some years people think, why bother? Some years people are very passionate. With the polarized country that we live in now, I've heard several conversations with younger people about they're not sure what impact they can make. And so the message we're trying to get out, particularly with the video and other things that we're doing, is that every vote counts. Mm-hmm. And you may not think that your vote is important, but if you don't vote, then you don't have a say.
Right. I can think of a number of times when we've done election returns, right, and things like school levies or school board races are determined by a handful of votes, and in some cases just one or two. Right. And it really does, especially in smaller communities when there's a much smaller voter base. You might only have 500 people voting for something, and it really could make a difference if one or two people don't cast a ballot.
That's really true, and it's happened even with candidates, even at bigger level, at higher levels.
Yeah. Oh well, if we just think about not too long ago, Christine Gregoire's first race as governor was 370 votes statewide, I think
Right.
it was, determined that vote. So voting is important.
And a couple of the presidential races were won and lost on
Right.
very small numbers.
Right. It's important and it's not hard to do.
No.
It's not hard to do. And this is a great segue to a video that you mentioned earlier. So stay tuned because we're going to bring that video to you right now.
Junk, junk, junk. Ooh, Philly cheesesteak. Junk, junk, junk.
Whoa, Juan Carlos, this ain't junk, bro.
What? I never opened those. Who cares? Is this your water?
Yeah, that's my water, and this is your ballot. It's super easy to vote.
Well, it's just, life is busy and I don't really think one vote will make a difference. So,
Okay, Mr. Busy. We got a lot of stuff going on right now at the state, local, and even national level. Every vote counts. Come on, I'll walk you through it. We're pretty lucky we live in Washington State. You don't even have to leave your house to vote. Get your voter's envelope, take out your ballot, open it up, of course, fill it out next to the candidate or initiative of your choice. And even if you don't agree with any of the candidates, you can write your own. I voted for Sasquatch one year. Thought they'd make a better representative. After that, just close it up, put it into the security envelope, back into the regular envelope, and bam.
I guess that is pretty quick and easy. But I still don't know who these people are. And voting for Sasquatch is not going to cut it for me.
I understand. That's why they give you a voter's pamphlet.
Yeah, I got that a couple weeks ago.
It's actually pretty useful. In here is a list of all the candidates and the initiatives, so you can make a more informed decision. We got to step it up. Not everyone has the privilege to vote. We got to make our voices heard.
That's true. And at least we don't have to go to a special voting booth either.
Exactly, man. Be the change you want to see. Plus, all the cool people are doing it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Now for the last step. Thank you. Whoa, Juan Carlos. Did you date and sign that?
I didn't. I forgot.
Don't trip. I got you, bro.
Oh, nice, man.
Yeah. Bills. Just nothing. Painless?
Yeah. Do I get one of those voter sticky things now?
Don't look like I just carry those things around? Gosh, job's done here.
So go to vote411.org if you want more information. It's easy to do. Your ballot comes in the mail.
And
How simple is it?
it is pretty simple. And in fact, now the ballots are post-paid. So you just drop it in the mail.
Don't even
and
need
if
a
you're not-
stamp.
right. You don't need a stamp. And if you don't think that's a very secure way, some people don't, there are drop boxes at the courthouse and around
All
the
over
county.
Thurston County.
All over Thurston County. So you can drop it in there. You do have to drop the ballots in the mail before midnight of the day of voting. So that is required. And if you don't know if you're registered or not, you can contact the auditor's office at the county, or you can go on vote411.org and check and see if you're registered. And if you have registered, you're sure you have, and you haven't received your ballot, you can also call the auditor's office and say, excuse me, I don't have my ballot. So, and they're very responsive. They're great with that. The two other things I want to mention quickly is that now with the change in voter laws in this state, there's been a change for people who've had a felony charge. If they are cleared of their charge or it's now run its course and they are no longer on probation or parole, they can register to vote. And that was just changed about a year ago. Also, young people who are registering to drive now are also automatically registered to vote. And if they register to drive at 16, that information goes into a separate database. And then on their 18th birthday, they get a notice saying you are now registered to vote. So that happens automatically. But a lot of people move around frequently. And so when they actually get ready to vote, they should make sure that they're registered at the right address.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So now, okay, that is what the league does, but it doesn't do it in a vacuum, and you need to have heartbeats to help with it.
Absolutely.
So, and that's your job, which is to bring membership to the league. So tell us a little bit about the membership side of the League of Women Voters.
Right. So we have roughly about 150 members now. It can fluctuate. And just like with a lot of organizations after the 2016 election, we're seeing our membership rise because I think more than ever, our nation is really faced with the importance of getting involved. And so when you join the League of Women Voters, you're part of not just, as Sandra mentioned, you're not just part of the local league, you're part of a national as well as the state league. Anyone over the age of 16 can join the league. And as Sandra mentioned, it's not just for women, and we want to be active in involving and engaging younger members as well, and especially those that have been underrepresented and have been marginalized in the past. And so we recently held a Getting Engaged workshop. Some were people who had not joined the league but joined after the league in terms of, what does the league really do? Well, as Gail and Sandra mentioned, we've been involved in a number of voter registration and get out the vote activities, but we also host different events to engage people that are concerned about the environment, that are concerned about gun violence, that are concerned about women's reproductive health and rights over our own body. And so we've been engaging people who are belonging to other organizations as well. So as part of the league, though, you can also be part of what we call Tuesday morning coffee with the league, and we hold that on a weekly basis. It's more regular than anything else that we do, and not everybody who shows up are members. Some are also elected officials who want to kind of keep their finger on the pulse of everyday citizens, everyday residents, and people who basically we're a galvanizing spirit for those who have been reluctant in the past to speak up, but have something to say and have something to fight for.
Where do you hold your Tuesday coffees?
Good question. We hold it at Mud Bay Coffee, which is over on the west side, and
Over near
off Cooper Point Road.
It's near the intersection of Cooper Point and Black
And
Lake,
Black Lake.
up on the hill. Yeah.
Right where it says Providence.
Right. Right.
in that same area. And so every Tuesday from 10 to 11. And then in addition to that, we also invite people from the community to come and speak who have concerns about certain legislation or concerns about undocumented people's rights and concerns that ICE is maybe not treating people in a fair or legal way. And we have those conversations.
These are informal gatherings, so this is not a big program. It's very amenable, welcoming.
Come, have a
fluid.
cup of coffee.
Yes.
Let's talk.
Let's talk. But if there's certain legislation that's coming up, we write postcards to our elected officials as well as make phone calls. And it's just a way, again, for us as a membership to keep our finger on the pulse of the concerns of everyday citizens and residents.
Do you have something that's specifically geared toward young people? Any projects or gatherings that you specifically invite young people to?
Well, what we do is that we partner up with other organizations. So we were a co-sponsor for for the climate strike that happened downtown just last month, as well as concerns about gun violence. So March with Our Lives we participated in. So what we do too is to reach out to other organizations as well, so that we're not duplicating what someone else is doing, but we join with people who have similar concerns or overlapping concerns.
Strength in numbers.
Absolutely. But
Yeah.
we also want to find out about their concerns. And so we participate at the Hispanic Roundtable, and that happens in June. And we also are involved with just everyday kinds of activities. And so we really do want to empower people to raise their voice and put their values into action.
And raise it in an informed way.
Right.
Exactly.
And we also use all members of the local league, but even non-members in terms of registering people to vote. And one of the things I forgot to mention is a big part of the voter services is the public forums that we do for the candidates in each election cycle. We're obviously more involved when it's mostly local elections, because that's what we focus on, but we're involved with the state and the federal levels when we have national and statewide elections. And so we've had both televised forums and in-person forums, and we use lots of volunteers for those events.
Okay. I was going to ask specifically, Carol, as I mentioned earlier, that it takes a lot of heartbeats to do things. So what are the kinds of things that members might volunteer? You just mentioned forums. Are there other things that the league needs help with that membership can support?
Well, one of the things that we just did last month is that we hosted a candidate reception. And so that's a way that people can just have that one-on-one time with the candidates and really get more into the weeds on the various issues. But those are volunteers that show up and help with setup and are greeters and meeters and other ways of being involved, such as we're having a action workshop, which is actually a statewide event, but we're hosting it right here in Lacey.
And what's an action workshop?
An action workshop is really to inform the membership on the various events and have roundtable discussions on what their concerns are, such as trying to mitigate climate change, for example, or looking at the bills that are going to impact on women's health care decisions.
And how to advocate, how to make your voice heard. And this is open not only to members, but to interested community members as well.
This will be a public event, so
Right.
it's not just League of Women Voter members.
So I want to ask you, Sandra, I know that the league does not endorse candidates or political parties, but the league does take positions on ballot issues. So are those, and you'd mentioned earlier that the league is a bottom-up organization. So does the Thurston County League of Women Voters have different things that they're focused on than other local leagues? Or okay, so what are the primary issues that the Thurston County League is focused on for the next?
Well, for the last
year or so.
The last 2 or 3 years, and we're still in the midst of it, we are engaged in an update of a water study. That is to say, in 2008, there was a league study about the water issues in Thurston County.
So water quality,
All of that.
availability of drinking water, all that.
And so last year we had 5 forums, and we've got 2 coming in March. And Carol's been involved with these, and many other league members, bringing in presenters from the tribes, from the local government, to tell us what are the facts about the water systems and availability and prognosis for the future. And so that would be an example of a local league study or project. There are sometimes state issues that involves leagues around the state because it's a state-focused issue, as well as on occasion national focus. So we have all 3 levels for study, and we advocate. We have a publication that indicates what are the national positions based on these studies, what are state positions, and what are, in our case, local.
So is it possible for the local to have a different position on an issue than the national organization?
Well, the local would be looking only at a local
The local
issue.
impact of the, I get you, I
If we
see.
looked, if the local league were studying a state position, then all the local leagues' consensus items would come together
see.
and become a state position, and likewise at the national. It may be that let's say at the state level, a position is taken that some individuals might not agree with, and they don't have to agree with it, but then they would not advocate in contradiction to the state position because that was taken by consensus from around the state.
Okay. Well, we only have a few minutes left. It's amazing how time flies when we're having this conversation. I'd like to ask, how can our community support the league? And, you know, from all of you, I think each of you probably have a different perspective. So let's start with you, Carol. How can the community support membership for the league?
Well, besides joining, and I just want to be clear that we do have a scholarship program available for students. We have an annual membership dues of $75 and then $100 for dual membership, meaning, you know, a member with a spouse or a partner.
And that's local, state, and national altogether.
So you pay that and you're a member of all.
Of all three. And so you really have that sense of connection and backup for from all three leagues. And as I mentioned, it's for anyone over the age of 16. And besides joining, it really is important that we engage with varied perspectives and cover important topics and give voice to the urgent and important work of protecting democratic principles, protecting the environment, and supporting the rights of diverse communities, including low-income and communities of colors, as well as our brother and sister that are members of the LGBTQ communities. And so it's really important that we really are reaching out to these other communities. And one of the things that we're doing on Saturday is that we're having our annual education luncheon where we celebrate wonderful work that other organizations are doing, as well as involving local people who aren't normally part of the league. So come join us.
Fabulous. How about you? How can community support you relative to voter services?
Well, I'm particularly interested in hearing from younger people who may or may not be interested in joining the league, but have particular concerns about how to vote, how to access information about voting. What I found out, I was kind of surprised, is when we did that video, there are people who don't know that the Secretary of State's office sends you a voter pamphlet through our local auditor's office. We get them designed for the votes that we'll have to cast, and it gives information about the different people who are running for office and the different ballot issues, and some people don't know that. So I guess mainly what I'm interested in is making more connections with people who want to find out about how to vote, how to get the information, and how to make it relevant for them.
Okay, we have a minute left.
I would add that in addition to all these good things, and we've been very focused on the election, voter forums, and getting out the vote and registering to vote. In the spring, starting in January actually, we will have 4 public programs that we invite everyone to. The first one in January is on the census process and redistricting issues. The one in February will be on the various aspects of suffrage and the centennial around women's suffrage. In March, as I indicated, there will be 2 programs on the water study that we're doing. And then in April, we will have one on sanctuary issues. And that's obviously an important one in Olympia because Olympia is a sanctuary city. In May, we have our annual business meeting, and then we don't do as much in the summer. We let people off the hook a little bit. But we do hope that we see a lot of folks at these events. They'll be publicized in the newspaper. You can go to lwvthurston.org, which is our website, and look on upcoming events, and you can see day by day or week by week what events are happening and how you can come and join with us.
Okay. Well, thank you all for being here.
Can I add one more thing?
We're almost out of time, real quick.
So, in addition to membership, you also would get a free book, The State We're In, which is a civics textbook.
Oh, good.
And it gives you a lot of great information, including our history of the state and tribal information as well.
Okay. Well, thank you all for joining us. And that's all we have. Is you can see Mission Nonprofit on Channel 77 on Sundays at 4:30 p.m., Tuesdays at 7 p.m., and Thursdays at 7:30 p.m., and Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. And you can also catch us online at tcmedia.org. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.